Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. How many of you started the conference with us on Friday? All right. And did you go to the screening on Friday evening? All right. And then did you spend any part of yesterday with us? All right. You guys are diehard. I love it. Well, it's an amazing weekend for women here in West Hollywood, and I'm so glad and grateful that you're here with us. This is the 9th annual Women's Leadership Conference here in West Hollywood, and we are so excited that you have been participating. Any favorite moments so far? Everything. Okay. All right. I'll take... all right. Well, you're my favorite, Martha. I am so excited to be here with you. My name is Lindsay Horvath. I am the newly elected mayor of West Hollywood, and thank you. And it is my joy to be here and be part of this weekend. As I've shared with you before, I was part of the first Women's Leadership Conference. I served on a panel with our Mayor Pro Tem, Lauren Meister, and now the two of us are both serving on the City Council together. And I think that's really a testament to the kind of leadership that is possible in this community when we work together and we really focus on our goals and continue to invest in our dreams. And to the extent that I can do that as the mayor here for you in this community, please call on me to help in any way that I can. I first want to welcome up Nancy Olson. She is the executive director of the Southern California Leadership Network. They're one of the community partners who have helped make this conference possible. And so I want to welcome her up to say a few words.
Thanks, Lindsay. I am so happy to be here. I had some of my staff who were here early yesterday, so hopefully some of you got a chance to meet with Aaron and Shar, who had a table out here yesterday, but I'm glad to take just a moment to share with you a little bit more about the programs that we have at Southern California Leadership Network. One of the first questions that Mayor Horvath asked me was, and I think Tetra as well, was is this a program exclusively for women? And I said, no, it's not, but I'm happy to say that about 60% of our fellows that come through the program are women, so we are a women-dominated program. But we do like to have the men around as well because they give us really great perspective when we talk about various aspects of our leadership, of who we are as leaders, and how we connect to the community. Southern California Leadership Network is a civic leadership program, which means that we are dedicated not only to helping people hone their leadership skills, their personal leadership skills, but also to connect them to the community. We have people who come through our program from the public sector. We actually have a current mayor, Lindsay, so going through our programs. So she's not going through our programs, but we have another mayor who's going through our programs. We have a number of elected officials who have gone through our programs. We have people from business, nonprofit, education, every sector you can think of. Folks come through our programs to learn more about their community, to learn more about how they can be engaged, to learn how things are interconnected, and how we are so dependent on each other for the success of our communities. We have 3 major programs. One of them is Leadership Los Angeles. And do we, by chance, have any Leadership Los Angeles alums in the room? I often have some. Or Leadership Southern California? No? Okay. And so we have those 2 programs. Obviously, local Leadership Los Angeles focuses on Los Angeles County. Leadership Southern California is focused on the region. And then we also have a statewide program called California Connections. So through these programs, we spend about 75% of our time learning about the various geographic areas that we're focusing on. We learn about education, we learn about healthcare, we learn about various issues, immigration, water, natural resources, you name it. We take a deep dive into a number of different big topics. We also spend the other 25% focused on people's individual leadership skills. So if you are interested in learning more about a little bit about the theoretical side of leadership, but really taking a deep dive and being very self-reflective on who you are as a leader, where you want to show up, how you want to show up, we have some really interesting programs that can help you do that. So they are fellowships. It is an application-based process. There is a cost associated with participating. For nonprofits particularly, we sometimes have some scholarships available. But they are 8 to 9 month fellowships. Leadership LA meets 1 Friday a month during that 8 to 9 months. And we go all over the county to learn about the various issues. Leadership Southern California is also 1 Friday a month. And so it's very doable for professionals. It's really designed for working folks. And then California Connections, we spend 3 days every other month exploring a different geographic region within the state. So we'll spend 3 days in Los Angeles, Orange County. We'll spend 3 days in the San Diego southern area. We'll spend 3 days in the Bay Area. In fact, we're going to Google in about 2 weeks and a number of other really cool places that we'll be exploring. And then we spend 3 days in Sacramento talking about state government as well as local and regional issues in that area. And then one of the most interesting tours that we do is of the Central Valley, because so many folks don't understand the Central Valley. We actually get on a bus in Sacramento and spend 3 days driving down the Central Valley, meeting with key leaders, farmers, mayor of Fresno, mayor of other small areas. Really interesting, meet with people from the Cesar Chavez Foundation, meet with just a variety of really interesting people and exploring all the issues that are important to that region. So that just gives you a little flavor for what we do. So if you're interested in any of our programs, I apologize, I do have to leave, but my board members called me to another event at 2 o'clock, so I have to go, but I know that you guys are in for a real treat. But if you have questions, I did leave some flyers in the back, on the back table just outside, as well as some of my business cards. So if you're interested in exploring a little bit more about how this can enhance your experience as a leader, as a woman, as somebody who wants to make a difference in our community, please feel free to give me a call. It's got my business card is out there, so you can call me directly. We'd love to help you take your next step on your journey. So thanks so much for the time, and thanks to John and to Mayor Horvath for the opportunity to be here and to partner with you all on this important work. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Nancy. It's really exciting to have new and different opportunities to engage in developing and cultivating our leadership. And one of the ways that I did that was through the Hollywood chapter of the National Organization for Women. I know we have some leaders in the house right here. And I helped to create that chapter in 2005. And then I learned from Eleanor Barrett, who lives here in West Hollywood, that she actually helped to create it once upon a time, and we just kind of revived it. But we brought it back to life, unbeknownst to us, in 2005. And the Hollywood chapter of Now was a really great way for me to learn about not only women's issues happening here in West Hollywood and in Hollywood, but happening at the state level and throughout the country. And so I'm really excited to be introducing our speaker today, who is the Vice President of Membership at the national level for the National Organization for Women. And this organization gives you opportunities to learn, because of the way it's structured, not only how to do grassroots actions and organizing in your own community, but also how to grow in leadership. And I know that Chitra has worked really, really hard to get to the level of leadership she's at today. And sometimes it's not so easy, but her hard work has really paid off, and she is a tremendous example for all of us. And even though she's not here in West Hollywood, your work is touching our lives, and we're so grateful that you're here today with us. Chitra Punjabi is an intersectional feminist activist with a professional background in nonprofit management and fundraising. She was elected Vice President of Membership of the National Organization for Women in 2013 in an uncontested election. She's just that good. She joins a small group of NOW's national officers elected prior to their 30th birthday. So I love young leadership too. Raised in Hong Kong, Chitra's parents were immigrants from India. Prior to moving to the United States in 2008, she lived in the United Kingdom for 5 years. Due to her experiences of living as a minority in 3 diverse countries, she has seen firsthand how discrimination and inequality persist worldwide, and has thus committed herself to the fight for equality. The lessons she learned from her upbringing inspire her daily to transcend boundaries and borders in fighting the intersecting oppressions that women face. She has extensive experience working in a variety of capacities at progressive nonprofit organizations, including South Asian Americans Leading Together, SALT, the Women's Foundation in Hong Kong, and the Sewell Belmont House and Museum in Washington, D.C. That last one's a great one. If you don't know about it, check it out. She holds a bachelor's degree from King's College London, a master's degree in international journalism from City University London, and a master's degree in women's studies from the George Washington University. And I am proud to welcome up a dear friend, Chitra Punjabi.
Thank you, Lindsay. I know you ad-libbed my bio a little bit there and threw in some great pieces, so thank you, and congratulations again on your election as mayor. It's incredible to have young women leaders like you to see moving forward, so thank you. Thank you also to the City of West Hollywood for inviting me to speak today, and especially to John Erickson and Larissa Fuchs, who I know have worked so hard on this panel today and this program today, so really grateful to be here. It's especially nice to be here with the weather that y'all are having on the East Coast. It's not so great, so it's nice to be in sunny California, and especially to talk about 2 things I'm really passionate about: feminist activism and feminist leadership. In the last 2 days, you've had some really fantastic opportunities to experience some incredible workshops, panels, films, about the myriads of ways women have stepped into leadership roles to address issues that they're seeing in their personal and their professional lives. The power of women's leadership is immeasurable, and it's truly a force to be reckoned with. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. I'm sure it's a quote that you've all heard. These words are attributed to American cultural anthropologist Margaret Mead, a woman, yeah. And they ring so true today. In my work with feminist activists at the local level, at the state level, at the national level, I see the commitment and thoughtfulness of the many people who are working to change for justice, for equity, for fairness. Some of these game changers are leaders with titles. But many, many of them are leaders without title, but by deed. The example they set for those around them in their thoughts, words, and actions makes them leaders. So what makes a good feminist leader? It's a question I ask myself constantly, especially in my role as Vice President of Membership at the National Organization for Women. I've come to the conclusion that as a feminist leader, there are some things that I must always expect of myself. I've learned that while there are many things that make a leader, there are 3 key principles that make a good feminist leader. And if you will allow me, I'll share some of those with you today. The first is knowing that leading should come from within the team instead of ahead of it. I've learned that a good leader doesn't just tell a team what to do. A good leader listens to different opinions and perspectives, evaluates those ideas, and challenges themselves to ask the ever-important questions. Am I wrong? Do I need to course correct? The strength of feminist leadership is not as simple as taking charge and paving a way. It's collaboration. It's working within a team. And most importantly, it's knowing when to admit you're wrong and challenging yourself to listen and change course when needed. That shows true leadership. Secondly, a good leader also knows when to step back and let others step up so their voices may be heard. They know that elevating the voices of so many different people is important because our individual and community experiences are rich and varied. We must hear the entire range of ideas and opinions to forge a path forward that works for all of us, not just a privileged few. And finally, a good leader knows when to listen. And not just to listen, but to really hear what a person is saying. Even if that makes you uncomfortable, especially if it makes you uncomfortable. Because that person's words may reveal that your actions or language have caused harm and discord, even if that wasn't your intent. These ideas about feminist leadership are more real to me than ever, as I hold in my mind what's happening across our entire country, and especially in Baltimore. It's devastating that our country's leaders have failed to see that the laws, policies, and systems that they have created are the root of the institutional violence against communities of color, the severe economic inequality across the board, and massive restrictions in access to basic rights. If our elected leaders had listened to the communities they serve more closely and actually worked with them to find solutions, I wonder where we would be today. A title alone cannot make a leader. We must have the moral leadership that is rooted in progressive ideals and in equity and in justice to genuinely make an impact. It isn't enough for us to just talk about these issues. We must live them as well. This weekend has encouraged you to be a leader in all areas of your life. And today, I charge us all, myself included, to use the skills and tools that we have acquired to be leaders in our communities and to do what we can to fight for justice and social change. Whether that means contacting an elected official or encouraging conversations about inequality within your networks, with your friends, with your family, or volunteering for organizations that are working for social change, you can be a leader by engaging. When we watch She's Beautiful When She's Angry, the resurgence of the woman's late 1960s and the early 1970s happened precisely because women in all communities, from all backgrounds and all identities, realized that they needed to lead the charge if they were going to see institutional and societal change. It was these ordinary women that recognized that they would not be able to reach pay equity, receive the access to the kind of health care they needed, parent their children how they wished, and be recognized in all areas of social, economic, and political life unless they became the forces of change. Recognizing those societal and institutional failings pushed them to step up, to lead, and make the changes they so desperately fought. It's a sad reality that we are still fighting for many of these things today. While we have made great strides, and subsequent generations of people have reaped the benefits of the battle before, including myself and many of you in this room, we've also been pushed back. The laws we fought for to level the playing field have been chipped away at constantly. If we had more women as leaders in the halls of power, would we be facing the same issues today? I don't believe so. If over the years we had more women as elected leaders in state houses, in Congress, and yes, even the White House, we would have seen very, very different outcomes. I truly believe it. It's important to note, however, that even the women leaders in the feminist movement have stumbled along the way. For many years, women of color felt like an afterthought in the feminist movement. Many still feel like that today. I don't say this to divide us. Our differences are real and they must be acknowledged. Acknowledging the lived experiences of those who are different from us does not divide us unless we allow it to. Acknowledging our differences as women gives us strength. Strength from knowing that when we recognize how an issue impacts us all, it gives us a path to forge forward in gaining justice for everyone. Indeed, we must acknowledge that for some in our communities, the oppression they face is due to a much larger system of policies that have been put in place over decades, if not hundreds of years. By centering the groups that are most oppressed in our activist work, we not only address these historical injustices, we provide spaces for their voices to be heard, to share their lived experiences, and to speak their truth. By focusing on achieving change that centers them, we make change for all of us. Our feminism and our activism must be intersectional or it will be meaningless. It isn't enough to simply talk about the gender wage gap. We must always raise the point that race has an impact on the gender wage gap. We must also address the fact that nearly 2/3 of minimum wage workers are women, which is why it's so necessary for us to raise the minimum wage. And it's time that the movement broadly embraced equalizing the tipped minimum wage to the non-tipped minimum wage. When 2/3 of tipped minimum wage workers are women and they endure widespread sexual harassment in order to earn their tips, it is beyond despicable that we cannot pass laws that prevent harassment and poverty. These issues of economic justice are multi-layered, and they intersect with how women and their families live and survive. To only talk about the gender wage gap is to do a disservice to the women for whom that is not even a conversation. And of course, these issues are just the start of what it means to have economic justice for women in their communities. We know that citizenship is something that affects women in terms of having economic security. This is a start. It's the beginning, but it's how we must approach these issues. And it simply isn't enough to talk about the ever-increasing difficulties in accessing abortion without also talking about federal and state funding restrictions that prevent low-income women from ever being able to afford abortion care. We know that women who were disproportionately impacted by federal and state bans on abortion funding are mostly women of color. And if we look beyond abortion care, broadly, to access to reproductive and maternal health care as a whole, we are failing women and pregnant people in this country all the time. For transgender and gender nonconforming folks, our language and our activism over the last few years has often left them out of the conversation. And we know that has a real-world impact on the solutions we're able to provide in terms of access. Does it mean that we need to stop using the term women? I'll be honest, I don't know what the answer to that question is. But I think we can take some really smart leaders in the room to figure out how we can be more inclusive in our language, so access isn't just, it's a reality for everyone. And we know when low-income women and women of color struggle to get the kind of health care they need while pregnant, we've got to ask ourselves if the conversation about reproductive rights should start and end at abortion. And it isn't enough to think that we're this close to winning because we're this close to winning marriage equality, that our work with and for queer and trans folk is over. We must ensure that our policies for employment, for education, for housing, and for healthcare provide protections for an increasingly marginalized population. We must ensure that basic rights to safety, security, and anti-discrimination are written into our laws without religious exemptions, so that no matter your sexuality, gender identity, or expression, you can love who you want to love. You can work in a safe space, and live your life free from endangerment and harassment. And it isn't enough to talk about violence against communities of color without also talking about women, including trans women, who are murdered and for whom so few will march in the streets in remembrance. These women deserve justice too. If we're going to work together to understand that Black lives matter, then we need to make sure that includes all Black lives, including the lives of trans and cis women and girls. Intersectionality, once you think about it, is simply the reflection of our lived experiences and identities. Understanding how race, class, gender, sexuality, gender identity, ability, citizenship, all intersect with these individual issues is complex. But as leaders in our personal and professional lives, we must address these issues through this lens, or the gains we achieve are meaningless. If we leave one person behind, then we have failed at gaining justice for all. And that means that there are moments as a leader where you must step back and be an ally. That means letting those who have lived those injustices to be the ones whose voices are heard first, whose solutions are presented first, and whose lives must come first. Over the last few years, we've worked to integrate this approach into our work at Now. I'm not going to stand here and say that we are done or that we have achieved this. Recentering and rethinking our approach to activism takes time. It takes understanding, it takes conversations, and it takes work. But it's why we're moving to a place where we recognize that we must advocate for full spectrum reproductive health care for all who need it. We're now advocating not only for closing the gender wage gap, but for raising the minimum wage and eradicating the tipped minimum wage so that all hourly workers make the same levels of pay no matter the industry. We're advocating for childcare, paid sick and safe days, and parental leave benefits. We're tackling the policy gaps left by addressing only the needs of men and boys of color, and not by women and girls of color. And we're working still to have women recognized in the Constitution. As a multi-issue organization, we do activist work on all fronts, at the local, at the state, at the national level. So it's more important than ever that our approach must be intersectional. Looking at all the feminists around me in my work every day, I'm especially heartened and encouraged by the young feminists I work with, because this is the path forward for them. I see them pushing, wanting to move forward with an activism that centers intersectionality. They aren't looking for permission, and they are hungry for change. Much like the women that came before us in the 1960s, in the 1970s, in the 1980s, the 90s, they're stepping up and taking the lead. That's true, 1920s too. It's our responsibility to provide advice and support when they need it. We must reach behind us to the next generation of leaders and help build that pipeline. Never telling them what they must do, but allowing them to forge their own path, just as the women that have come before. I strongly believe that these leaders are the future of the women's movement, for today and for tomorrow. And that is true leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Chitra. How about another hand for her? Her work is tremendous. I am so grateful that someone in a national position of leadership holds the values that she holds, but more importantly, has a platform to see them actualized. And I am so grateful, and I know that whatever you do after now will be just as rewarding for all of us because you will carry your values with you in your leadership, and I'm really grateful for that. So now we have a few exciting previews before we're on to our major screening of She's Beautiful When She's Angry. These previews, the previews ahead of the film are from the June Mazer archives. So I hope you enjoy them, and let it roll.